Hey, White Sox fans, guess what? Didn't think we'd be doing a post-game podcast today. Seemed like it'd be a mundane game, chance to win a series. But instead of the dulcet tones of Scott Reichard's guitar introing us to a Side Sox podcast, instead we got the defensive angry words of Tony La Russa post-game. Before we get to the guest, let me break down just a little bit of what happened in that audio you just heard, just a minute of it. So contextually, I'm not sure what happened necessarily before, or if there's more follow-up after. I'm assuming no, because that's sort of how it goes. Kudos to Scott Merkin for asking the question. We had a little discussion among staff whether or not it would even be acknowledged. There's no way it can't be acknowledged. Of course, I took the under. I did actually say somehow it wouldn't be acknowledged. It was. So kudos, Merk. Although, let's face it, Tony comes right back at him and defensively and somewhat admonishingly questions why anybody would be asking the question. That's a perfect opportunity to say, well, yes, the planet is asking, the Dodgers broadcast is asking, the White Sox broadcast. No worries about throwing anybody under the bus here. Steve Stone isn't in with the players. You're not going to lose big contacts by just saying everybody is talking about this. And then I think the follow-up, comes from James Fagan. I'm not sure. The follow-up, an opportunity, not just to poke the bear, but to say, yeah, to follow up on what Merck asked, there's a lot of talk going on. There's a lot of questioning. You don't have to make it an individual thing where you're picking on the manager. You can go with the masses on this because guess what? It's not a lie. Every single person's jaw dropped when that decision was made. And then you knew it was, even the Sox broadcast kicked it to the postgame saying, man, the postgame could last 3 hours tonight because we think there's going to be stuff to talk about. Anyway, enough of the inside beat nonsense from Brett Ballantini, your host on a surprise. Hey, surprise, everybody. Post-game podcast number 11. Got some guests. Going to get immediate reaction because, listen, he called shotgun. I am going to ask for some thoughts from Dante Jones first. Dante, your thoughts on, just pick a topic. I don't know. Is there something to talk about? Pick a topic.
All right. So I was at today's game, unfortunately. I don't think I've seen a crowd go deader than that crowd went today when the Hall of Fame baseball person decided, no, we don't want to deal with Trey Turner. Let's just deal with Max Muncy after getting Trey 1-2. And I thought Dylan should have been pulled earlier because his pitches weren't quite as sharp, getting a little later. That pitch count was a bit up. So, yeah, I think Dylan should have been pulled. But we also had to consider the fact that we had to deal with bad defense from Jake Burger. The thing that happened when they switched Burger out for Moncada at the end of the game confused me because if Moncada's healthy enough to play, he should be playing third base every day. I don't care if he's slumping. He's a all-star caliber player. Let him get out the slump instead of trashing your defense by putting Burger out there. Burger, great power bat. DH. There's a reason there's a DH. He shouldn't be on the field at all, it looks like.
White Sox going to run out the unorthodox 5 DH lineup at any time. Well, they actually are running that out. It's just some of those guys got to play in the field. Yeah, Tony, here's just a tip. They spent $80 billion on a bullpen this year. You might just want to hook the starter a little bit quicker. But anyway, that's a small nitpick given, the big lead story. Okay, I'm going to next kick it up to Chrystal O'Keefe because after all, she had to struggle through not just one, but 2 pieces of coverage with Southside Sox. So by the way, we are waiting on I've glanced at it already. It's not published yet. An epic recap coming from Christina Erdo. So there's more great coverage to come, but for the person who's actually published a couple pieces painfully, sort of like that root canal, Chrystal, how you feeling?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you didn't read my 6-pack of stats today, I compared it to a roller coaster where someone pukes in your lap, someone screams in your ear, the ride gets stuck for 30 minutes, and that the kid operating the ride at this theme park is actually just too old and really bad at his job and should have been fired or shouldn't have even been hired in the first place, really. So yeah, I'm a little peeved and I know nothing will happen. So I can be angry at Tony and I can be angry at Rick and Jerry, but nothing's going to happen. Because again, like I've said before, there's like some blood oath between Jerry and Tony to where unless one of them dies or Tony walks away, nothing's going to happen. So
we're going to
a little irritated today.
We're gonna get to that concept in the second half of this podcast. We'll just have our little fantasy discussion, I suppose. But I did make one tweak on that 6-pack, and I believe you just said riding in the roller coaster, and I said strapped in. Now that might not actually be accurate because technically fandom is voluntary. I don't feel it's voluntary for me. I'm suffering. I could be running away from this team. I'm still going to be suffering from a distance, knowing what is happening in this ridiculously embarrassing fashion. So I thought the strapped in was appropriate because it doesn't feel like, like you sit next to the person who looks like maybe they are going to puke on you during some of the turns and the drops. You can say like, hey, I changed my mind. Can I get off of this before it starts? We're strapped in. Joe Resis, you seem uncharacteristically bloodthirsty. I don't expect I'm going to hear that from you, but give me your reaction to this game, because I detected a little bit of a tone change in you to the fact that maybe you're sitting back now and almost wondering at the embarrassment of this team.
I am going to start with something that is a little bit off topic, but I promise it'll get back to the topic. Okay, so I'm basically an intermediate chess player. I enjoy that game, and I like to watch grandmasters stream it on Twitch, and more than 99% of the time when there's disagreement between what I would think I would do in that situation versus what the grandmaster does in that situation, more than 99% of the time the grandmaster is right. And I can pretty much always assume okay, if there's any disagreement there, then I'm wrong in this situation. I am certainly not getting that sense with Tony La Russa, and to hear him defend that action of the intentional walk on a 1-2 count in the post-game interview. There just seems to be such a large disconnection from reality in this case, and it's certainly not fun to have that guy as the manager in a year that should be in the middle of the contention window. I just don't have any confidence in him as manager, and it's very unfortunate that it's gotten to that point. Yeah, he's just simply making mistakes, and this isn't something where it's like, oh, it's a super complicated concept that a Hall of Famer baseball person would know, but nobody else would know. No, this is just simply a mistake. There's no other way of putting it. Like he cited what Turner's numbers against lefties on what a 2-strike count, which quite a bit worse than Muncy's numbers. I think that was his whole defense, was the belief that Turner on a 1-2 count would be better than Muncy, which is simply not true. I mean, I don't know really what he's talking about at all in that case, and it's very unfortunate. He really topped himself this time.
Joe is a Sox math champ, etc. I mean, obviously you're a metrics guy, and I think we've all been clamoring for management and a manager who's going to embrace metrics more. The problem is we didn't specify they have to use them correctly. So way to go, Tony. Hey, listen, him from Northside Sox Pod, and of course, White Sox group therapy. I'm guessing there's going to be an episode coming. Hey, Sam Sherman, how you feeling today?
Yeah, really badly. I've talked a lot about my fandom this season in different emotions. I felt, at the beginning of the year, I was questioning, is this worth it? I can't escape it, Brett, to what you're talking about. The fandom, I guess, is technically voluntary, but it doesn't feel that way. I've tried to not be a fan of this team for a long time. It doesn't work. But I thought that I was apathetic at times. I was apathetic, but now I'm actually just angry. And I didn't know, I'm happy that we're doing this pod tonight, because it always makes me feel better to talk to, my community here with about this stuff. But no, I mean, it's at a point now, Chrystal said it, nothing's going to change. That's the thing that keeps, the most infuriating part of it. And I think that it's just that it's almost incomprehensible how frustrating it is that like Joe had said, this being this like middle of what should be this contending window, and it's blowing up in an unbelievably embarrassing way, not just locally and nationally. And all of that could be great, honestly, if it led to a manager getting fired. But we know that's not going to happen. Even after seeing, Joe Girardi and Joe Madden get fired in the last 2 weeks, whatever it is. But it's the very special nepotism case of Tony La Russa here. He's not going to get fired. I'd love to eat my words. I really don't think I'm going to. But Tony is managing he's doing his job like he wants to be fired. And I think that it goes back to the nepotism hire. It goes back to this connection that he has with Reinsdorf. And I think that that's a part of the other thing, which is what a candidate what a person in his position who was not Tony La Russa, Hall of Fame manager, and had this tie with Reinsdorf, be able to get away with these just unbelievably strange decisions that seem to be coming from nowhere. And of course that wouldn't hold up. Anybody else would be pushed harder by the media, or pushed harder by the organization, whatever the case might be. He's not going anywhere. I know I'm kind of rambling here, but it's extremely frustrating. And I don't want to forget about holding Rick Hahn accountable. I don't want to forget about holding Jerry Reinsdorf accountable. I guess Kenny Williams as well. The whole front office, yes, the players many players are struggling this season badly. But I think that it's easy to look at La Russa and say he's the big problem, and he is a big problem, and he is, significantly affecting this team. But again, somebody hired him. Somebody has been, and I'm not taking Rick Hahn out of this, because Rick Hahn had multiple off seasons to address problems on this team to make it almost La Russa proof. He hasn't done that. Gave Larry Garcia a 3-year contract. Anyway, I know I've gone a long time, but no, it's very frustrating. So,
well, think about it. I think I've made, even on a podcast, much less everybody, my feelings known about sort of how this came about, that La Russa, was the surprise hire, that they're basically keeping the seat warm for him post Ozzie. But I mean, think about the fact that Ricky Renteria was fired for reasons that might be legitimate. There certainly were a few flags, but so much dramatically less error, in-game error. People want to hang that crazy division game 3 on him because it was like a weird, he pulled a guy too fast, or Crochet he got hurt, he had to leave the game. It's like, that was like chaos. We got to get this guy out of here. He can't steer this championship window team. La Russa rolls out of bed making mistakes greater than that, probably literally. All right, let's take a quick break, because who knows, we can just go on this next topic because we've already broached it. So let's take a quick break. Come on back for the post-game podcast. No, we're not celebrating a no-hitter. No, we are not. Or opening day. No, we are not. We are celebrating the 26 and 29. I think I got it right. Chicago White Sox. Back in a minute. Hey, everybody. Brett Ballantini here, getting to host a post-game podcast number 11 with some of my very, very best friends in the whole wide world. It's Chrystal O'Keefe and Super Joseph Resis. As always, staffing the Indianapolis field office. Podcast host, man about town, Sam Sherman, Dante Jones at the ball game. Somehow it hasn't just passed out. I don't know how this hasn't happened, but he is here with us talking White Sox. Let's run through a few stats because I got to do it. Joe will fact check me if I get something wrong. 26-29, 5.5 out. I believe they are going to be 6 out by the end of the day. 4 in the loss column, Steve Stone. This is a 63-99 team if you project the run differential. Not real good. Tigers creeping up on the White Sox, just 3.5 back, in case you think third place is safe. And Adrian Serrano, who is not able to join us, did want me to let all of you dear listeners know the White Sox are on the verge of being tied with a team that lost 14 games in a row, tied with them. So, it's cute to nibble. It's cute to always be hovering right there around 500, the way the White Sox did in some record-breaking fashion within a game of 500. But it's not going to get the White Sox into the playoffs, which is sort of the point of the season. Chrystal nibbled at it a little bit. I believe Sam did as well. It's on our minds. We know that Tony La Russa will not be fired. It's not going to happen. The one hope we have, short of course, I think, as O'Keefe mentioned, death, which I do think actually ends the tenure. Who knows? Tony may actually manage this team from the grave. But what would it take? Oh my gosh, the open essay question. What would it take for Tony La Russa to stop managing this team? Let's just assume he's going to manage this season. We saw just in that post-game conference, his pushback that says, oh no, you ain't going to tell me what to do. But maybe after a little reflection, if it is a disastrous season, is it going to take 100 losses, 90 losses? What's it going to take for Tony La Russa to step down, or would he ever step down? I'm trying to throw a little rainbow here. I'm guessing all of you are just going to rain on it, but thoughts?
It's going to take 3 more DUIs for him to get fired.
Wow. That's a really rough week. Or night. Let's be fair for Tony. Night. Okay. So it's going to have to be legal. Like he essentially would be fired. He would not stand down.
I mean, yeah, maybe I don't really want to make the comparison to Andrew Luck, because Andrew Luck still had a lot of talent at that point, a lot of skill. But yeah, I don't know. We've seen it before where athletes, they can still play, and they just decide, I just kind of want to move on to the next stage in life. That wasn't expected at all. When sometimes when that happens, like it wasn't for Andrew Luck, and so. It could happen. It's possible. I'm not counting on it, but yeah, I do think it would have to be something very unexpected, like a random loss of interest or desire to move on to the next phase of life, or as you had mentioned, of course, yeah, I do think death would do it as well.
Random loss of interest, as if he hasn't been managing, as if he is suffering from random loss of interest. Let's point something out. This could be a double rainbow. I'm going to throw this out for Dante, Sam, whoever else wants to jump in. He did seem to be somewhat cognizant of legacy. He had said, and boy, the Hall of Fame could have come through for us. He had said, if the Hall of Fame had said, well, your plaque's going to temporarily come down, or what, I don't know what the issue was, but technically you're not supposed to come back active after you're already in the Hall of Fame, right? And Tony had said, if they said, no, you can't do that, or it's going to screw something up, he wouldn't have come back. So there is some awareness of legacy. I mean, it has to be done. I mean, they're 3 games under 500, a completely underachieving team. If it gets way worse, it could actually soak into that hard shell of skinny ads. Dante, Sam, thoughts on any possible double rainbow here?
Well, for me, the main thing is, like we all said, no one thinks Tony's getting fired anytime soon. If he did get fired, hey, I would love to be proven wrong. I've learned that being proven wrong sometimes be better than being right.
Oh yeah.
So that'd be dope. I've been somebody that from jump thinks that we might have to do you might have to send that message. And to me, it's Rick Hahn as well, because people always have the rumor of, well, Jerry overstepped Rick to hire Tony. If Jay's if I was a GM, I wouldn't want my owner overstepping me, because I want to have full faith in every decision I'm making. Let me ride on it. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, I would have jumped off the ship. Mm-hmm. I personally have said that AJ Hinch should be our manager, and now he's in Detroit, so that's great. So let's steal from another rival in the division. Tony La Russa should be fired at the end of the season. Really, he should be fired before the end of the season, but it's the White Sox. They don't do that. Like the Bears did with Nagy earlier this year. So when hopefully they fire Tony at the end of the season, there's a guy on the Guardians that will also be a great managerial option, Sandy Alomar Jr. I'm already starting to look into who I want next, because this team is underachieving. I don't think we're gonna break the 100-game loop, the 100 losses mark. I don't even think we're gonna break 90. I think this team is gonna end up 3 games over 500, sneak their way into the postseason, get blasted in the wild card, and we go from there. But I would rather us not make the playoffs, because at least if we don't make the playoffs, there's more reason to fire this guy. Mm-hmm. But I can see us tripping our way into the playoffs, getting blasted by like, I don't know, the Twins, because that's just how this works, and going from there.
Yeah, it's funny. Even when most of us are like, worst case scenario, we're all still like, oh yeah, 80 something wins, probably still make the playoffs. And I mean, nothing is projecting to that right now. Sam, do you care to slide on the double rainbow? Or are you going to somehow find another way to just be bummed out about all this?
Today was the first time of the season. I tweeted this out earlier that I actually, while I still don't think that he will be fired, I sort of thought about it, I guess, in like a way that it could happen. But it's not, it would be completely against everything that we know about how the White Sox work and the specific relationship dynamic between Tony La Russa and the front office, specifically Jerry Reinsdorf. Because it's, I'm of the belief that this season is going to get really ugly, even uglier than it already is. Like it's funny, Dante talking about how you think that they're gonna, get sort of sneak into the playoffs, and I think that's certainly possible. But I'm kind of like looking at this team, and I'm seeing Eloy Jimenez have somehow not what's considered a misstep in his the
word salad.
Stint. But in any case, he, I guess, will be back at some point. I wasn't exactly tearing the cover off the ball when he was here. I still like him, but I don't know if he's going to just come right back and be an infusion of offense. Lance Lynn will be back here soon. Again, though, the pitching has not been the problem this season. So I think that it's going to get really, really, really ugly, a lot uglier than it already is. And I do wonder that, if you're Rick Hahn, if there will be that moment, and we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, where he goes to Jerry and he just says, it's not a me or him situation, but it's more of a, this has blown up beyond even any Sox fans, any of us that were pessimistic about it. I actually think it's gone way beyond it. Because what did we all think? Well, this team is good enough to, get over, even if Tony's not Hall of Fame manager, right? At this point of his career. And then Brett, speaking about what you said with the legacy part of it, that's what's so wild to me is the motivation. I think I never understood was why Tony wanted to come back. And I guess the reason is that he is Tony La Russa and he feels like he, knows better than everybody. But I'll tell you what, the way that this is tracking, for all of us that maybe would have thought of La Russa in general as like, oh yeah, of course, Hall of Fame, like legend, whatever. Again, not having him managing our teams and just thinking about him in the scope of baseball, kind of on the surface, like maybe I would have, that's different. And I think nationally, I think that the legacy of La Russa is with every day that we're seeing this play out here in Chicago. I think I'm not saying tarnishing, but I think it's it will absolutely have a negative impact on his legacy because he's a joke and he's turned this organization. This season is such a joke at this point that it's always going to be there. And so whether or not the Hall of Fame puts his plaque up or they leave it off, guess what, Tony? Like in Chicago, we're never going to forget about you. And this is an incredibly embarrassing time for an organization that's had many embarrassing times throughout their history. So,
yeah, think about it. He's like he was all before 2 seasons ago. He was the one who got away, right? He won World Series and other. He really was like there was this wistfulness, whether or not you buy into the whole, myth of him or whatever, he invented bullpens or whatever. Think about this though, Jerry, he's trying to do this make good. He's like, oh man, this is the biggest regret like he's ever had in his life. Right. His kids are probably like, what's going on, Dad? But okay. Biggest regret of his life. And now he's making it good. He's practically, printing tickets to the parade, the World Series, 5 years contention window, whatever. Imagine if it all turns so bad. And let's face it, chances are it's going to turn bad, at least in the sense of not winning a World Series, if not a lot uglier the way Sam is at least anticipating the clubhouse to explode into, that he might actually have to fire the guy twice. And that definitely was not in any way in the realm of what he thought was a possibility. He just thought it was going to be like, okay, well, one of us will just slip into the great unknown, but we'll have like a whole bunch of rings on our fingers, or we'll at least be really, really happy. Okay. Speaking a little bit to what Sam got at, and I don't want to sort of miss on this. It was a tough series no matter what. I mean, winning 1 out of 3 from the Dodgers, even at home, I guess that's nothing to be too ashamed about, although the way they did it. Okay, we got a lack of days off, so we're getting right into a Texas Rangers series again at home. Texas is not a pushover, roughly as talented as the White Sox, at least record-wise. So it's certainly not going to be an easy series, as if any of them will be the rest of the year. Interested in getting an idea from all of you how this team responds. Obviously, they can lay down if they want to quit on this guy. They can quit him and argue. Maybe they have, but everything they say, Tim Anderson, him are like practically roomies on the road. Lucas Giolito said positive things, pretty much to a man. I mean, there might not be a lot. We're not hearing a lot that Sun said, right? But we don't know how the team's going to respond. How do you anticipate this team? We've been waiting for the run, and the run is not happening. And at some point, we just got to figure the sun sets on the run, and we're happy to be a 500 team. How do you think this team responds just in the near term, coming right out of this ridiculous embarrassment where all the talk is about the clown manager and his defensiveness? How does this team play the weekend against Texas?
It's been an endless cycle of as soon as you start to lose hope, they kind of reel you back in and get back right around 500. So I think they respond pretty well to this and have a nice series against the Rangers. Just gut instinct, just from how this season has gone so far.
Real quick, I actually agree with Joe. I think that they'll respond fine. I think that briefly, I'll just say the question that I struggle with is, does that actually matter? And the answer to that question, increasingly, in my opinion, has become no. Because it's funny because Joe says that they've sort of had these responses that pull us back in, and I'm absolutely guilty of getting pulled back in throughout this season. But we're talking about responses that aren't really that. They had the one winning streak, but outside of that, it's like they'll win a game, and then we're all like, Jake Berger homers, and we're all like, oh yeah, and I'm putting myself in this group. But yeah, I don't know that it matters really. It seems like it's going to be too much of this for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat. I get really excited. I said something about how I can't stay mad at Jake Berger because he hits the ball. And I put him in my MVP poll today, and someone in the comments was like, I can't believe you did that. I'm disgusted. And I was like, he's like the only one that hits.
Exactly. What else we
What am I supposed to do? Yeah, he had two
popcorn
really
vendor
bad errors. But when he's the only person that hits the damn ball, what am I supposed to do? Like, you're welcome to give me MVP people. But yeah, I'm just...
Chrystal, next time, I mean, it's going to be like tomorrow. Next time, you got to put Dante's got to be in the MVP pool. Dibilic, I believe, is at the game. Rachel Malanta was going to be at the game. Those people, at some point, it maybe does need to be vendors and fans from the staff, because that was a tough one today for sure. Dante, what do you think the bounce back response is going to be against Texas? What should be a winnable series? Should take 2 or 3.
Yeah, we should take 2 or 3 because Texas pitching isn't good. The signings haven't lived up to expectations. Like I didn't have the Rangers going to the playoffs this year, but I thought they'll be better, like at least a more entertaining team. But I mean, I also thought the White Sox would be a more entertaining team, and that didn't mean anything. So hopefully we take 2 out of 3. I'm not gonna say they will take 2 out of 3. I'm gonna say they should take 2 out of 3 because it's Martin, it's Gio, it's Kopech. Martin, whatever. Gio, Kopech against the Rangers should be 6 innings, 1 run, send the bullpen out. But that's not how this works with the 2022 White Sox.
Should be, Dante. No, they're going to all see the 7th, and they're going to start getting hit around. They're going to run it up to about 115 pitches, grumble on their way off the mound. All right. As we're winding up here, some quick numbers. Sox got to go 6. Joe, fact check me, whatever. Fact check me in the comments after this is posted. 64 and 43, I believe they got to go to get to 90 wins. 64 and 43. That's some combination. That's basically winning every series the rest of the way. Of course, there's going to be, they're going to magically fall into a sweep against the Royals or something, but that's basically winning every series the rest of the season. Not the easiest task. We hear a lot about the schedule. White Sox have, to be fair, they haven't had an easy schedule. whatever. Okay. And they have the easiest, apparently they have the easiest the rest of the way. Problem is they are, I believe, 14-13 against teams below 500 so far this year. Does the fact that the schedule is going to get easier, is that going to resonate at all with this team where it's just like they start falling into wins? I mean, they do still have to win games.
Well, my thing is, we're supposed to be a World Series contender. There's no such thing as a difficult schedule for a team that's a World Series contender.
Good point.
Dodgers, they look at the White Sox and like, we can win that series. The Rangers, they look at us and say, we can, well, they look at them because it's not us, it's them. They look at this and say, we can win that series against the White Sox. That's how good teams look at other teams. They look at every single team and say, this day we have a chance to win. Doesn't matter who we're throwing out there, doesn't matter what's going on. They say, we have a chance to win this game every single day, 162 games a year. The White Sox, I look at bad teams and say, the White Sox can beat them. I look at good teams and say, if the White Sox win one, then it will be an accomplishment. That's not how a championship level team is supposed to work. And they've proven time and time again to not be that yet. Could they be in the future? Not this season, but maybe next year.
But Dante, they promised me they were the hunters and not the hunted this year. That's not fair. They can't pull that carpet out from under me. Okay, other thoughts on the strength of schedule?
Dante brings up a great point about like the perception of different teams. And I think that that's something I keep thinking about with like, whether it was the Yankees series or the Dodgers series. And then like, there'll be like these games where they struggle. And then I'll see discourse around like, well, the Yankees are good or the Dodgers are good, or, these are really good teams. It's hard to, and I'm thinking, yeah, but this isn't like an up and coming White Sox team. This is the team that's supposed to be the Dodgers and the Yankees. And it's funny to say that with everything we know now, but there's not like a bunch of reinforcements on the way. We don't have a good farm system to look forward to at this point. Although we do have some interesting prospects that should be in the major leagues.
Yeah, they're not calling them up. If it was a good system, they wouldn't be calling them up.
Exactly. But it's just to say that like, this is it. And that's what's so discouraging. So it's like, I don't want to hear about the how it's hard to beat good teams, because we are supposed to be one of those teams. So strength of schedule especially doesn't matter, even if we have the easiest strength of schedule for the rest of the season, when we're not beating, we're not beating the good teams, and we're not really, we're doing actually seemingly better against the good teams than we are against the bad ones. But it's just to say that Dante said it's not we, it's them. I'm putting this on them. They are not a good team. And so I don't know how much strength of schedule is going to really matter all that much.
Indianapolis.
Yeah, ditto. I don't have a whole lot of faith anymore that they can do anything even against these bad teams. I really think the Tigers are gonna just completely kick them out of that third spot. Even it's ugly, and they can't win, and they have a shitty manager that's not helping the cause. So
yeah, that's not going to make the pocket schedule though. Unfortunately, it should maybe for next year. Joe, Ray Hope, Ray Light.
It can't hurt having an easy schedule in the latter portion of the season. I think in the long run, they will start actually performing better against bad teams than they do against good teams. So I do at least have a little bit of faith in them that they'll have the ability to turn things around to some degree. So yeah, happy about the strength of schedule in the long run, but Dante said it pretty well in that. I kind of have the same belief that when at the beginning of this series against the Dodgers and back when they were playing the Yankees, I was thinking, okay, if we can just win one game this series, I'll be satisfied, and that really should not be the way it is this year.
Yeah. Joe, Chrystal, I have gotten your separate individual requests to reconsider the remaining schedule and reduce your workload significantly. I will take that under consideration, but I will give you the early word is absolutely 100% denied. You are stuck. Enjoy the rest of the season. I will be here with you trying to enjoy the rest of that season, as will Dante Jones and Sam Sherman. Hey, guess what? I imagine a half hour wasn't enough time. There could be more group therapy right around the corner. Lucky Sam, lucky host. Hey, thanks everybody for participating in this podcast. We are trying to rush it up because Lord knows you want to hear more about what a goof clown and what a regretful decision it is that Tony La Russa is the face of the Chicago White Sox franchise. Hold the applause. Thanks for reading, watching. Hey, still sticking around with us. Love that you're here. Without all of you, we're not here and there's no purpose. So consider perhaps vacating. Might give us a break. We might need it for our mental health. Anyway, at any rate, there'll be more group therapy. There'll be more Southside Sox, normal mothership podcasts. We'll be on the farm, whatever. There'll be podcasts as soon as tomorrow. Definitely quicker than you want to hear more about the White Sox. Thanks, everybody.